Learning is Nishmas Etta Ahuva bas Yaakov. Maseches Kesubos Perek Vav Mishna Gimel. It's talking about an adunya that she brings in at the marriage, which also is called Nichsei Tzoim Barzel. It's in the achrayus of the husband, and if she dies, then he arshins it. Now you don't write in the ksuva necessarily the amount that she brings in, as the Mishnah explains. Paskal lahachnas loy 1,000 dinar. If she was paisek that she's going to bring in 1,000 dinar, which is equal to 10 mana. So she's bringing in cash of 10 mana. Hu paisek kenegdan chamisha asar mana. He writes in the ksuva that he's receiving 15 mana. And the reason is because he writes a third more because he could invest that money of 10 mana and turn it into 15 mana. Now the next line in the Mishnah is going to be repeated 4 times throughout the rest of the Mishnah, and we'll explain it each time what the chiddush is, as the Gemara explains. So the first one is cheneged hashum. If she's bringing in items that could be used for business, clothes, or other items that can be sold, so then hu paisek pachos chaimish. If she's bringing in 1,000 dinar, so then he would write only 800. He would write a fifth less, and the reason is because products like this are over-evaluated at the time of the marriage, l'chvayid hakala, and to be mechavid her on her husband, and also they go down in value. So over here, as opposed to kesef, where we said he writes a third more, here you write a fifth less. So this is talking about if she made the evaluation, how much he writes in the ksuva, and this is by a large evaluation. The Mishnah says, Shum b'mana v'shava mana ein loy ela mana. However, if it was clear and obvious that the amount that she's actually bringing in is the amount that she's saying of a mana, so then ein loy ela mana, he can't be teveya that he should be getting a fifth more. Now the Mishnah says the second time, Shum b'mana, if he wrote in the ksuva that he's receiving a mana, he noisena shloishim ve'echad sela v'dina. So then she has to bring in a fifth more. So 1 and a fifth mana is, each mana is 25 dinar. A fifth of a mana is 6.25 dinar. So 25 plus 6.25 is 31. Shloishim ve'echad sela v'dina, 31 and a quarter. So if he writes a mana, she has to bring in a mana and a fifth. And this time the Mishnah is saying it because it's the opposite order. He's writing it, and then based on that, she has to bring in more. The third time the Mishnah says this halacha is uba arba meis. If he's writing in the ksuva 400, he noisenes chamesh meis. She has to give a fifth more, which is 500. So this time the Mishnah is saying it. Again, it's he writing it, but here's a larger amount, so it wants to tell us that the proportions are the same. Even though it's a larger amount, it's still that she would have to bring in a fifth more. And finally, the fourth time the Mishnah says this halacha is Masha Chasan Paisek, who Paisek Pachos Chaimish. If she brings in an amount, he writes in the ksuva a fifth less. And this is going back to the first time we said it, that based on her shuma, he writes a fifth less. And over here we're saying it because it's a small amount. So basically there were 4 times the Mishnah said the halacha. One was based on her shuma, and one is based on what he is writing. And for each one, we say it by a large amount and a small amount. But in all 4 cases, the proportion is that based on the evaluation that is done for her, he writes a fifth less. Mishnah Dalid, Paskal lahachnas like Safim. So this is the same halacha, a first halacha in the last Mishnah, that when she was bringing in cash, we learned that she brought in 10 mana, he writes 15 mana, which is a third more, because he was able to invest it. So here the Mishnah says the same halacha, but with a smaller amount. Sela kesef nasa shisha dinarim. If she brings in a sela, which is 4 dinar, then he writes 6 dinar, which is a third more. And again, it wants to tell me that even though it's a smaller amount, the proportion is the same. You might think that, no, if you invest a larger amount of money, maybe it goes up more than a third, or the opposite. If you invest a smaller amount of money, could be it won't be the same third amount because the expenses are less. Maybe it'll go up more than a third. The rest of the Mishnah is a new halacha that hachasem mekabel love asara dinarim lekupa lechol mana umana. Based on how much she brought in for the nedunya, he has to give her 10 dinar for a kupa shel besamim, which Taisus explains is used either to make her skin better, or to remove hair, or to remove creases. And the Gemara explains that this was only in Yerushalayim. The Gemara is not sure if this would be a weekly thing, a monthly thing, or a yearly thing. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel omer hakol k'minhag hamedina. This halacha of giving her money for the kupa shel besamim depends on the minhag hamedina.